Welcome back to Face in the Crowd. You're chatting to the co-director of Enviroswitch, Mfundo Nkuta. Now, Mfundo, how would you describe your childhood growing up?
I would say a very rich childhood based on knowledge. I was raised by my grandmother. Lost my mom at the age of 5. And the richness of the whole situation is because we are in front of a Quintal 3 school, Entlon Penny Primary School in Newcastle, Osizweni. That's where I grew up. We had a tuck shop when I was growing up, and my grandmother filled in the gap, ensuring that I didn't feel, that I've lost my mom. And I went to a multiracial school by virtue of that tuck shop. My grandmother was a food aide for the subs, so she did almost everything that I get by. So by the age of 15, unfortunately, I lost my grandmother, so I was left with my uncles. And from there, the lessons that you'd see that she was one person who foreseen the future. The way that she had prepared me, I knew that I need to wake up, go to school, because, well, my uncles, they're very good in the alcohol side. So, I had to be self-disciplined at that time. So by the time when I went to matric, I already knew that I need to go to start by the library and then go home and cook. So for me, that's the richness of growing up in Newcastle by my grandmother, being raised by my grandmother. And by the time when I went to varsity, I had 5 kiosks. So you couldn't say that I didn't have any parents by then, because first year, that's when I lost my dad, when I was starting my first year. So neither of my parents were there, but fortunately enough, my grandmother, I feel that by her lessons, she was always there.
What did you want to be growing up?
You know what, this profession chose me because, and I thank my community every day. That is why, just to digress a bit, that is why on the 6th of February, it's my birthday, Enviroswitch is going just in front of that school and donating 206 pair of shoes and uniform with Jungle Gyms in partnership with our mentors, Jeremy and Paul Berman. But in itself, I grew up wanting to be a geologist, and I didn't really apply matric, stupid enough. So by the time when I actually got my matric results, I saw, oh shucks, I actually qualified to be what I want to be. And my community, a lady, a couple of houses away from my house, gave me £50. The mother used to be those nurses that went to the UK, so they gave me £50 and said you can go to any tertiary, just as transport money. So that was the contribution, and also a neighbor of mine as well gave me accommodation while I went to the Tshwane University of Technology to apply. And when I first asked to do geology, I was told it was full. But fortunately enough, I ended up graduating as an environmental health practitioner, and I love it to bits. And I ended up graduating at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Yeah, and I never regret being who I am and what I am today.
Who would you say has played a pivotal role in your journey this far?
You know what? First and foremost, my community, my grandmother, Umama, who I supposedly say she's my grandmother, but she's really been a mom to me, filling the gaps, especially when I was studying in Cape Town. She opened her doors and ensured that I don't, go to Newcastle because it's quite far. So my family, my uncles, they would call, even not having a cent to offer, but they would call and check that I'm fine. I could only go once at home. So everyone, my friends, for encouragement, as much as I decided to go far from home, but everyone I think that I'm close to, they did play a role.
Would you say entrepreneurship is something you honed along the way? Do you think you were born with it? When did that bug actually hit you? I mean, as you matriculated, you already had 5 kiosks. So how would you say that bug bit you, and when?
As I've said, that I went to St. Oswald's in Newcastle, next to Value City. So it was a wholesaler. So there are certain things that my grandmother would give me toughies, and that was it. So there was a time when in my town, Anno, there's a shoe called Anno. So every cool kid was wearing one. So I couldn't afford one, and I saw the pin pop was in style. So I started selling to afford. So I was making about 50 bucks profits a day. So within 2 weeks, I afforded a pair of annos for myself. So I think I've always been one to go towards or lean towards entrepreneurship for solutions.
Well, we caught up with a few people who know you on the more personal side of life, and this is what they had to say about you.
I'm Sakile Kupega, friend of Mfundo Kuta. Mfundo ngimaze from where I come from, which is in Newcastle. I was a grade, if not two, ahead of him. So what happened was, every time when we came back from school, we would just sit together and chat and talk about how was school and all that. And then we started getting and then that's when we started building up a friendship here too. So I can say he's a friend from a very early age in my life. He's a good guy, I don't want to lie to you. He's an open person, honest. He always states his opinion. That's what's good about him. Whenever he sees something and just wants to know a bit more about it, he usually asks me if I don't have that info. We then go to Google and all that. So he's more of an informative guy, always looking to find some solutions to his problems and all that. I can say he's hungry for success, because I think he lost his mother at an early age, so that took a knock on his life. And then just when he was about to finish his higher institution studies, like his degree that he did, he also lost his father. So he's an orphaned man, but you cannot tell the way he sees life, the way he lives lives. So that's what I love about him. He's not afraid to fail. He always takes chances. I wish nothing but the best for my friend. I mean, I've seen how daunting a task it can be to start up a company from scratch. Because I remember when he came to my place and said, "No, Sakile, can you help me? We're moving into a new office and there's a lot of stuff to move around and all that." And then I assisted. But I could tell the amount of money he was putting in, the amount of effort that he was putting in. Mind you that he still has a full-time job that he still needs to take care of. Plus, he has a family that he must attend to. So juggling those tasks at the same time, I mean, something is gotta give. Something's gotta give, and I wish the guy all the best. And I know that whenever he needs help, he knows where I am, so I'll happily assist him towards success.
Mfundo, entering the sector you've chosen to practice in, what sort of challenges would you say have erupted along the way, and how have you managed to overcome them? I mean, we know there are many barriers to entry for a player who enters a highly monopolized sector, for that matter too.
Funding, I think especially starting from our banking sectors, because it's not only a government issue.
Yeah.
Whenever you go to a bank, they'll tell you that you need to be operating for more than 12 months, which is a year. And whilst you have contracts in place, no one is willing to give you those funds. So funding is the big outcry that I have in terms of the challenges. And the second thing is that sometimes when they are seeing a new kid in the block, they tend to drop their prices to try and suffocate you, especially the big players that I'm talking about. But how we always overcome is that we are strategists, myself and Lisejo. So what we've then learned is that then using purely what other companies do, they use a pest control officer, for instance, if I may use pest control again as an example. We take our graduates, we train them in pest control, they are able to do environmental audits, they are able to do occupational audits, they are able to do food monitoring and audits. So you tend to have this one person who's able to do more than one functions or services, whereas other companies, they then tend to use different people. So that idea of being that one-stop shop, it works for us.
In terms of cash flow as well, has that been a problem that you've experienced? As much as you've got the assets and the people,
yeah,
we do know that cash flow can also...
The support of a family has played a huge role. I mean, right now, I even have a mother here in Joburg, Lisigo's mom, played a huge role. I mean, the first vehicle that we were granted, it was, she sacrificed her own vehicle to say that, okay, carry the equipment using my vehicle and I'll take taxis to work. And we're humbled, you know, by such support. And cash flow afterwards, you know, having such was for some time problematic, because reaching micro businesses is a challenge because they are scattered. So marketing, there's a lot of money that goes there. But, you know, ever since, the team, they really sharpened their skills. So we don't have any losses in terms of now the services. When we're rendering services in terms of time, they're not wasting time, they're not taking different routes, whereas in a day they could have maybe went to Germiston and then came back and went to Braamfontein. Now they plan their routes to ensure you know, efficiency.
So what are your top 3 pearls of wisdom you'd like to impart to those watching who perhaps want to enter the sector or are just operating as an entrepreneur at large?
I think for every entrepreneur, it's very important that you first and foremost research. You know, for any space where you want to operate in, you know, do as much research as possible. The second thing is that also your work ethic. If you don't really work and you expect other people to work on your behalf, I don't think that you'd really reap the success that you are hoping for. And the third one is that mentorship and partnerships. Surround yourselves, you know, Les Brown says that if you are walking around with 10 broke friends, you are guaranteed to be the 11th one. So in this case, we have surrounded ourselves with the likes of Emmanuel Bonoko. We've aligned ourselves with Siam Ngube, who just acquired Masonite, which is one of the biggest wood manufacturers based in KZN. Jeremy and Paul Berman, I've been mentioning them. You know, the list is endless of people that, Jean Fembelune, those are the people that are immediately available to advise us. So even the time when I explained how we actually started, we went to Jeremy and Paul to ask for advice, and they just said to us, here's our building, go and do, and then come back to us, you know.
As an entrepreneur, there's no one to blame except yourself. You realize that you're not employed by anyone else, and therefore things need to change. You need to change. What would you say is the one limitation you had, and how have you managed to work through that and overcome that in conquering yourself and moving forward?
I mean, it was not personally, and with my business partner, we were just environmental health practitioners. That was our qualification, no accounting background. And fortunately enough, he's collecting data right now for his master's degree, Desigo Hulane. He's an incredible, he's very, I'd say in terms of his education, is one person that is very relentless in getting what he wants to know. So he's busy with his master's. I've just registered with Regenesis Business School for my MBA. So in overcoming that particular stumbling block is for us going into in acquiring that information. So by virtue of myself going to do MBA and him being the master of environmental health would do justice. And there's one thing that as well we believe in, myself and him, is that also our staff members, they should continuously you know, go through short courses. That self-development, I mean, in a day, there's a lot of information that is going across.
What does the future hold for you and for Enviroswitch at large?
Going global?
Yes.
But starting off by increasing the number of employees that we have. We are anticipating by increasing the number of graduates from the University of Johannesburg, partnering with the Tshwane University of Technology, Cape Peninsula, so going nationally. Currently, our focus was to affirm our existence here in Gauteng, and then from there take it to other 9 provinces.
Thank you very much, Mfundo, for sharing your story, and we wish you all the best with your future endeavors.
Thank you for making the time and giving us the platform.
Well, it is said, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. That's all we have for you this week. From myself, Liesl Wilson, and the rest of the team, it is goodbye for now.